The king was easily influenced, swaying this way and that like a reed in the winds, like as not to heed whichever counsellor last had his ear, the writings of Grand Maester Garwin, Fire and Blood, the Sons of the Dragon. At the death of King Aegon I Targaryen, the legendary Aegon the Conqueror, in 37 AC, his eldest son, the 30-year-old Aenys, became king, being coronated in a public ceremony up the top of Aegon's high hill in the rubble of the growing Red Keep, as thousands of smallfolk looked on with glee. After this public crowning, Aenys set out to Oldtown to receive the blessing of the Father of the Faith, the High Septon in the Starry Sept, much like his father had done at the end of his conquest. This trip would take only a few days, if Aenys had flown with his dragon, Quicksilver, but Aenys rather chose to travel by land and greet the subjects of his new kingdom on his way. He was accompanied by 300 mounted knights and their associated retinues. His wife, the now Queen Alyssa Velaryon, rode beside her husband, together with their 3 eldest children, Princess Rhaena and the princes Aegon and Viserys. Rhaena was 14 years old at the time, and was said to be a very beautiful girl, who stole the hearts of every knight who beheld her. Aegon and Viserys were 11 and 8 at the time. Aegon, now his father's heir, and in theory the future king of the 7 kingdoms. Their younger siblings, Jaehaerys and Alysanne, were deemed far too young for such a long and arduous journey, so remained on Dragonstone. Some say under the care of the now Dowager Queen Visenya Targaryen. After setting out from King's Landing, the party made their way south to Storm's End, then west along the Dornish marches to Oldtown, guesting at each castle on the way. The king would return by the way of Highgarden, Lannisport and Riverrun, thus meeting with most of his great lords of the realm, save for the Greyjoys and Starks. All along the route, the smallfolk appeared by the hundreds and thousands to hail their new king and queen and cheer for the young princes and princess. But whilst Aegon and Viserys relished the cheers of the crowd and the feasts and the frolics put on at every castle to entertain the new monarch and his family, Rhaena reverted to her former shyness of her early childhood, a turn of events that puzzled many at the travelling court, most of all her mother. At Storm's End, Orys Baratheon's maester went as far to write in the official records that the princess did not seem to want to be there, nor did she approve of anything she saw or heard. She scarcely seemed to eat, would not hunt or hawk, and when pressed to sing, for it is said she had a lovely voice, she refused rudely and returned to her chambers. The princess had been most loath to be parted from her dragon, Dreamfire, and her favourite, Melanie Piper, a red-haired maiden from the Riverlands. It was only when her mother, Queen Alyssa, resorted to sending for Lady Melanie to join them on the progress that Rhaena finally put aside her sullenness somewhat and joined the celebrations begrudgingly. Once Aenys and his court reached Oldtown and the Starry Sept, the High Septon anointed Aenys Targaryen as his predecessor had once anointed his father, and presented him with a crown of yellow gold, with the faces of the 7 inlaid in jade and pearl. But not all was joyous as it seemed, and there was trouble brewing under the surface that would define the reign of Aenys Targaryen. Even as Aenys was receiving the blessings of the Father of the Faithful, others were casting doubt on his fitness to sit the Iron Throne and to follow his father, for many different reasons. Westeros required a warrior, they whispered to one another. Aenys was not that, and his brother Maegor was plainly the stronger of Aegon's 2 sons. He was all Aenys was not. Foremost amongst the whisperers was said to be, in fact, the now Dowager Queen, Visenya Targaryen, the sole surviving wife of Aegon the Conqueror and mother of Maegor. The truth is plain enough, she is reported to have said. Even Aenys sees it. Why else would he have given Blackfire to my son? He knows that only Maegor has the strength to rule, and thus the simple act of a gift between brothers would sprout discontent in Aenys' very own court. The new king's ability as king would be tested sooner than anyone could have imagined, but in theory it should have given Aenys an opportunity to prove himself worthy of his father's throne and his crown. In truth, the wars of conquest had left scars throughout the realm, and the Seven Kingdoms were still in the process of becoming one unified realm. Sons had now come of age dreaming of avenging long-dead fathers. Knights remembered the days when a man's sword and horse and a suit of armour could slash his way into riches and glory. Lords recalled a time when they did not need a king's leave to tax their smallfolk or kill their enemies. The chains the dragon forged can yet be broken. The discontented lords said to one another, "We can win back our freedom, but now is the time to strike, for this new king is weak." The first stirrings of revolt were in the Riverlands, amidst the colossal ruins of Harrenhal. Aegon had granted the castle to Sir Quinton Qoherys, his old master-at-arms from Dragonstone. When Lord Qoherys died in a fall from his horse in 9 AC, his lands and titles passed to his grandson, Gargon, a fat and foolish man with an unseemly appetite for young girls. He became known as Gargon the Guest. Lord Gargon soon became infamous for turning up at every wedding celebration within his dominion, so that he might enjoy the ancient lord's right of the first night. A more unwelcome wedding guest could scarcely be imagined. He also made free with the wives and daughters of his own servants and men at Harrenhal. King Aenys was still on his progress as a guest of Lord Tully of Riverrun on his way back to King's Landing, when the father of a maid whom Lord Qoherys had honoured opened the postern gate at Harrenhal to an outlaw who styled himself as Harren the Red and claimed to be a long-lost grandson of Harren the Black. If he was the blood of Harren or not is in fact little consequence to this story. The brigands pulled his lordship from his bed and dragged him to the ancient castle Godswood, where Harren sliced off his genitalia and fed them to a dog. Few leal men-at-arms were killed defending their lord, but Lord Gargon was not well liked even by his own men, so the rest agreed to join Harren, who declared himself Lord Harrenhal and King of the Rivers. But he did not go so far as to call himself King of the Iron Islands, not truly being Ironborn himself. When word reached Riverrun, Lord Tully urged the king to mount his dragon Quicksilver and descend on Harrenhal as his father had once done. But Aenys, perhaps mindful of his mother Queen Rhaenys' death in Dawn atop her dragon Meraxes, instead commanded Lord Tully to call his banners and lingered at Riverrun as they gathered. Only when 1,000 men had assembled did Aenys march. But when his men finally reached Harrenhal, they found it empty, but for corpses. Harren the Red had put Lord Gargon's servants to the sword and taken his band of outlaws into the woods. There is much debate as to what this event did to Aenys' reputation among his more sceptical lords. Some argue that he showed the wiseness of a king by ordering the Riverlands army to march on Harrenhal, waiting till he had a strong number, while others that he lacked his father's daring and courage by not flying to Harrenhal with his dragon and making a show of strength like Aegon had once done. While the impact of this first test of the new king is debated, there is one thing we can say for certain: this was only the first of many tests King Aenys Targaryen would face in the coming months and years over his reign.